This is 1972 in review, covering the events of Week 8 of the baseball season, covering June 5th through June 12th. I'm sorry, June 5th through June 11th, 1972. Top story in baseball right now is Roberto Clemente finishes the week with 2,996 hits. He needs 4 hits to reach 3,000. Last week he went 7 for 22. And the next series in Pittsburgh will be the San Diego Padres visiting the Pirates. So, barring any type of injury or anything like that, it doesn't seem like a real stretch that Roberto Clemente will have 3,000 hits by Friday. Before the season started, I had predicted that he would get his 3,000th hit by June 15th. And I might be right on the money. We'll see. We move to the NL West. Sunday, June 4th in Los Angeles, they had Casey Stengel Day. And it was highlighted by Jackie Robinson's return to Dodger Stadium. Robinson has been on the outs with both the Dodgers organization and Major League Baseball in recent years, but after some discussions with Peter O'Malley, the new Dodger president, he agreed to appear at the Stengel Day. While he didn't play in the Old Timers game that had been organized that day, Jackie Robinson, Roy Campanella, and Sandy Koufax each had their Dodgers number permanently retired. And on Thursday, Phil Niekro of the Atlanta Braves became the first pitcher in the majors this year to get his 10th victory. He has won his last 8 starts. Let me double check that to make sure it's not as... Yeah, he was 2-2, and then he's got the win in his last 8 appearances. He's now 10-2. Braves beat Montreal 3-2. He pitched 8 innings, gave up 4 hits, 2 runs. He walked 1. He struck out 4. As a knuckleball pitcher, 98 innings, he's only given up 20 walks. That is not bad, at least in my opinion, it's not. He does a pretty good job of mixing up his knuckleball with a fastball. The Dodgers in the NL West, they remain in first place, but they lost 4 of 6 last week. Houston won 3 out of 6, and they're in second place. They're a half game behind the Dodgers. And Cincinnati won 2 out of 5. They're in third place, 1 game behind LA. LA starts off this week in St. Louis, while Houston will be at home entertaining the Expos. In the American League East, Baltimore won 2 out of 3 from Minnesota, and then they lost 2 out of 3 from Texas. So they were 3-3 for the week, while Cleveland won 2 out of 3 from Oakland. They nearly made it 3 out of 3, but Cleveland had some problems with the gopher ball in that series. And on Tuesday, Cleveland was winning 4-2. And let me go back to that one real quick here. Of course. Yeah, that was kind of a irritating game. Cleveland was winning 6-3 going into the ninth. And Denny Riddleberger, coming off of 2 bad outings, gave up a solo homer to Sal Bando. Then with 1 out, Dave Duncan doubled. George Hennick struck out, so the Indians were 1 out away from winning 6-4. When Hegan singled, that scored Duncan, putting Oakland within 1 run, and then Joe Rudy hit a 2-run homer, putting Oakland ahead 7-6. Then after Epstein doubled, Reggie Jackson popped out, but Oakland scored 4 runs to go ahead. With 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth, the Indians had runners on first and third, but Buddy Bell flew out to end the game. But Cleveland came back and won the next night. And then they took 2 out of 3 from Minnesota over the weekend, so Cleveland went 4 for 6. The Yankees, the third place Yankees, lost 2 out of 3 from Texas, but Rob Gardner, in his major league debut in Texas, pitched a shutout. Yankees won that game 1-0. They scratched out a run in the first inning with a walk, 2 forced plays, a single, another walk to load the bases. And Gene Michael singled in a run, and that turned out to be the only run of the game. That was Rob Gardner's major league debut. He gave up 9 hits, he walked 1, he struck out 4. But then the Yankees won 2 out of 3 in Kansas City. Now Boston, in 4th place, has a 6-game winning streak going on. They swept the White Sox and the Angels. Rookie pitcher John Curtis struck out 11 against the White Sox. And Boston moved into 3rd place. They're percentage points ahead of New York right now. Cleveland's in 2nd place behind Baltimore 5 games out, while Boston and New York are each 5.5 games out. Go down to the AL West. And Richie Scheinblum, who had the highest batting average in the major leagues at the time, got hurt on Friday. He's on the 21-day disabled list, so that we'll see how the Royals are able to go on without him for probably in early July. Scheinblum has suddenly been able to hit the low and away pitch this year. And he is suddenly become one of the top players this year. He has a 12-game hitting streak going on right now. He's hitting .404. His only other season where he got into more than 100 games was in 1969 with Cleveland. He hit .195 that year. California has a 4-game losing streak right now. They've lost 5 out of 6 this week, and that's coming off being swept in Fenway Park. They were swept at Fenway Park. They're still in first place, though. They're 1 game ahead of Kansas City. Kansas City split 6 games. They went 2-1 against Milwaukee and 1-2 against the Yankees. They're in second place. Minnesota went 2-4 for the week. They're 1-2 in Baltimore and 1-2 in Cleveland. They're 3.5 games back. And Oakland has a 3-game winning streak going on. They swept the Tigers in Detroit. They're 4.5 games back. In the National League East for St. Louis, Scipio Spinks pitched 2 consecutive one-hitters. Spinks came to the Cardinals in the deal for Jerry Royce from the Astros. In 1969, he pitched in 1 game for Houston. 1971, he pitched in 4 games for Houston, so he's a rookie this year. And he pitched a 1-hitter against the Dodgers. That St. Louis won 11-1. So you got the hit off from that game. I remember that game. Steve Garvey got the hit off him in the 2nd inning. And he was just on fire that day. He kept getting the Dodgers to hit the ball on the ground. Matty Alou made 18 putouts at first base. And his next one-hitter was against the San Diego Padres. St. Louis won that game 5-1. And Kurt Blefary hit a single in the 6th inning. He wasn't as sharp that day as against the Padres as he was against the Dodgers. He walked 6, struck out 8. When he pitched against the Dodgers, he walked 2, he struck out 2. And he has a record right now of 4-4. See what else is going on in the NL East. The Mets were 4-2 this week. That was a nice little bounce back for them after losing 7 out of 8. Cubs have a 4-game winning streak going on. They've won 6 out of 9 on the West Coast. They're 5 games back. And Pittsburgh was 4-2 last week. They're 5.5 games back. And the big story in Pittsburgh right now is Roberto Clemente going for his 3,000th hit. I think I mentioned before that it's actually San Francisco will be coming to Pittsburgh, then San Diego, then Los Angeles. And I had thought at the end of last season, I thought that he might get his 3,000th by June 15th. June 15th, the Pirates have a doubleheader scheduled against the Giants. Now I'm going to look at some highlights from last week. On Monday against Oakland, Cleveland beat the A's 7-3. Frank Duffy went 4 for 5 that night with 3 runs batted in. Jack Brohammer, rookie second baseman, went 3 for 5 with a double. That was Dick Tidrow against Diego Segui, and then 2 days later, Oakland had put Segui on waivers, and he ended up with St. Louis. On Wednesday, Tom Seaver, who's been a little erratic this year, shut out Cincinnati. He struck out 11. The Mets beat the Reds 3-0. That raised Seaver's record of 5-3. And on the same night, Bill Stoneman of Montreal pitched a complete game shutout against Atlanta. Ron Reed pitched a good game for the Braves, giving up only 1 run, but that was enough. Montreal beat Atlanta 1-0. The same night, the Brewers smacked the Royals pretty hard, 9-2. Brewers got 16 hits that game. With Dave May leading the way, going 3 for 4 with 3 runs batted in. Bill Parsons got the win for Milwaukee. He's 3-7, and Al Fitzmaurice took the loss for Kansas City. He's 1-1 now. In San Diego, Steve Arlen pitched a complete game. He threw a 2-hitter. And the Padres beat the Pirates 2-1. Roberto Clemente got one of the Pirates' 2 hits. Dave Cash got the other one. Steve Arlen, probably the greatest player who ever played for the Ohio State Buckeyes, gets his first win of the year. He's 1-7 on the year now. And in Los Angeles, Don Sutton threw a 2-hitter. He threw it against the Cubs. Dodgers beat the Cubs that night 7-2. gave up a sixth inning single to Don Kessinger and a seventh inning double to Glenn Beckett that raised Sutton's record to 6-3. On Thursday, Kansas City turned around. They smacked the Brewers 10-9 in 11 innings. Steve Hovley went 5 for 6 with a home run. Paul Shaw went 3 for 5 with 6 runs batted in. That was a crazy game in Kansas City. Going into the 8th inning, Royals led the Brewers 3-2. Brewers scored 3 runs in the 8th. Making it Milwaukee 5, Kansas City 2. And then in the bottom of the 8th, Kansas City sent 7 runners to the plate. Scoring 2 runs. Hovley hit a solo home run, and then Joe Keough singled, scoring Rojas to tie the score. In the 9th inning, Milwaukee sent 8 batters to the plate. They scored 4 runs on 4 hits. Rick Auerbach singled. He increased his hitting streak to 15 games. Then George Scott singled, scoring 2, and Joe LaHoo tripled, scoring 2, which put Milwaukee ahead 10-9. Then in the bottom of the 9th, Kansas City sent 8 batters to the plate. That was highlighted by Paul Shaw doubling with the bases loaded, clearing the bases, making it 9-8. And then Bobby Knupp singled, scoring Shaw to tie the score. And then in the bottom of the 11th, Paul Shaw singled, scoring Hovley to win the game. And in Montreal, Ron Fairley hit a home run in the first inning. That increased his hitting streak to 15 games. Montreal eventually lost that game to Atlanta 3-2. On Friday, Pittsburgh beat Los Angeles 8-3. Clemente went 1 for 5. In fact, they won that game 8-3 in 11 innings. Los Angeles tied the game in the bottom of the 9th. Each team scored 1 run in the 10th, and then Pittsburgh unloaded for 5 runs in the top of the 11th. And Boston beat California 10-4. Reggie Smith went 2 for 4 with 2 home runs. Rookie Ben Ogilvy went 2 for 4 with a home run. And the Red Sox kept on rolling. They're on their way moving into 3rd place. On Saturday in Texas, Bill Gogoleski pitched a 1-hitter against Baltimore. With 2 outs in the first inning, Bobby Grich singled. That was the only hit that the Orioles had. The Orioles had 2 base runners for the rest of the game. Dave McNally walked in the 6th. He was erased on a double play. And then Boog Powell walked in the ninth. Baltimore did not get a runner in scoring position the entire game. Gogolewski struck out 8 in that game. He walked 2. And in Kansas City, the Royals beat the Yankees 5-3. Roger Nelson of the Royals pitched a complete game. He struck out 11. He's 4-2. Steve Klein for the Yankees pitched a complete game also. He's 6-3. Steve Hovley went 3 for 3 for Kansas City, and young John Mayberry went 3 for 4. And on Sunday, in 10 innings, Philadelphia beat Atlanta 8-7. Philadelphia pitchers walked 16 batters. Woody Fryman walked 8 in 4 innings. Bob Reynolds walked 4 in 2. Chris Short walked 3 in 1 inning, and Barry Lurch walked 1 in 1 inning. They walked 16, they struck out 2, but they still came away with the win. Philadelphia scored 6. They scored 3 in the 8th, 3 in the ninth to tie the game, and then they came back and won it in the 10th, 8-7. At Shea Stadium, the Mets beat the Astros 13-12. They got 17 hits. John Matlack got the win. He pitched a complete game. He gave up 3 hits, 2 runs, 1 home run. He walked 4. He struck out 10. He gave up a home run to Bob Watson. Willie Mays went 2 for 4 with a double. John Milner went 3 for 4 with 2 home runs. And Jerry Grote went 2 for 4. Matlack raised his record of 5-2. And Stan Bonson, who got off to kind of a rough start with Chicago, threw a complete game shutout. He gave up 3 hits against Milwaukee. Chicago won that game 2-0. Bonson's now 3-4. Jim Colburn had a good start for Milwaukee, giving up only 3 hits and 1 run. He gave up a home run to Rick Reichart in the first. And that's about all I have right now. We will be keeping an eye out for Clemente. Hopefully I'll be able to record his 3,000th hit. So this week we have Monday Night Baseball will be Montreal at Houston. Houston's a half game behind the league-leading Los Angeles Dodgers. And then on Saturday, the game of the week will be the Dodgers at the Cubs at Wrigley Field. Cleveland will be playing in Oakland. And we'll be in Oakland on Sunday for the Indians game. And I may try to record some of the action at the U.S. Open on Sunday as well. So this has been 1972 in review. Thank you for listening.